everything that we're going to access here for rethinking your Ultra documents is in faculty resources. Now, as we go through this, we've got a module called Professional Development Days and Session Resources, where we will be getting all of our fall symposium stuff eventually. But right now, we have access to the optional PD folders that are in here. So you're seeing the 25 and 26 one, and in their first document, Erica Fenton style, we've got the most recent document at the top here. I love it. Thank you. Yep. A shout out to Erica there. And we are rethinking our Ultra documents. We take a look at that. This is kind of our rationale for what's going on and what we're thinking about. And then as we go through this, we'll see all of this content, and then we'll actually hop into the course shell where this is living, and we'll see that it actually kind of play out from a student's perspective and from the instructor perspective, and how we can make some of these changes on the fly. So we're finding, as a CETL team, as we go through a number of different courses, and as we're getting closer and closer to completing the Ultra transition, that we have a lot of document-heavy learning modules. And what we're realizing is that one of the problems was that we had Blackboard Original, which was very document heavy. And not only that, even if it wasn't a document, when it made the transition over to Ultra, a lot of your stuff was converted into documents. So we have modules that may look like the one that's on the right side here in this, where here's my module, and I've opened it up, and I scroll and I scroll and I scroll and I scroll, and I've got a lot of stuff going on there. And you can see it's very document intensive. And part of that is the migration. So when we moved all of that content from original over, it took your Word documents, it took your PDFs, it took your presentations, all of that, and pretty much put them into a lot of separate documents. So naturally, this is the result of that move.
I feel like we needed New Kids in the Block reference, like step by step.
Step by step. Ooh, baby.
Yeah, right through those documents.
There we go.
There we go.
Jumped right
Back
into
to
that.
the 80s.
Back to my middle school days. All right, good. That was a real thing. Everybody on my block of lockers had that up on their lockers. New Kids on the Block.
Even Jim.
Even Nick. You beat me to it.
I did.
All right, so familiarity and efficiency. That's the other reason here that we're seeing a lot of documents. It's really easy to create a document, and it's really easy to throw stuff in there. And in original, that was kind of the mode, because you couldn't mix a lot of different media types together into one document within original. So you created a lot of separate documents to put those things into. Now that we're in Ultra, we're realizing we don't need all those documents. We can start to streamline that more and combine some stuff together. I think also we've all had a learning curve here with the Ultra tools. So what's it mean to like actually embed some of the media, creating inline content? How do we put those things more together into a single document? We'll be looking at that. The other constraint here is our time. It was time consuming enough to make the Ultra transition. That was a tough go, and over 3 years, and we're just about to the finish line here. But now that we're getting to the finish line, we're going to be looking at digging up more time here to take that original kind of move and take the next step into, let's make this not an original masquerading as an Ultra course. Let's make it more of an Ultra course using the Ultra tools. Uniquely Ultra course. Wow, I like that wording. I did like masquerading though. All right. So, and then also our pedagogy, moving document heavy modules. We want to like start integrating this more from a design perspective too, because really it's about the students, and part of rethinking our documents here makes it more interactive for students to have materials, assignments, assessments, your knowledge checks, all of that stuff all kind of in one place where the learning is happening. So it's not so click intensive. We're clicking here and then we go to the left and click something and going back and forth, making it more interactive.
Are you saying they'd have the right stuff?
Ooh, baby. The right stuff. Good. Wow. Man, you
I had to go look up songs.
You had to go look up songs. Well, you are hanging tough. So nice job. Right.
Well done.
That was another reference. All right. So conclusion here, we're going to take these document heavy modules. We're going to fix them up. Here is a side-by-side comparison with what we're going to see today. So on the left-hand side, we're seeing a very large module, very big. Okay. This module goes on and on and on and on. It kind of stretches down the line here with a lot of stuff going on document-wise. On the right side, we are reimagining that document in Ultra, and you can see that now what was a lecture, a recording for lecture one, an outline for lecture one, a knowledge check for lecture one, all of that is now combined into like one document. Now, I still have my module overview. I don't want to get rid of all the documents. I just want to streamline them so that the ones that really have, the meat and potatoes of the learning are now condensed together and more interactive here. And that's what we're shooting for. Our next steps with all of this here is as we go through this process, I guess this is what I had to do. And this is going to be unique to each course. And that's why I think doing this in real time is going to be a little challenging, but we'll see the steps, I guess, play out here in real time. You're gonna have to prioritize what is the important stuff, what could be streamlined together within your documents, what can you combine without taking away from the learning, okay? And also, how can we do that so that there's no document overload? We're gonna convert key documents into more ultra native content here so that it is now designed with content blocks. We're using image blocks as opposed to inline images. And then we're using some HTML blocks for those of you that are Canva users and maybe bringing in content from other sources like YouTube, or if you have third-party plugins or any extensions like that, using that stuff right within your document, as opposed to leaving Blackboard to go to that content. Okay, there are some resources here directly from Blackboard. And if you're like completely new to the whole document scene in general and creating an Ultra, that's kind of the first link here. Like, how do we do the documents? How do we put stuff in there? How do we use these different blocks? And then the new feature, which I'm kind of excited to show here, and I think all of you will use in different and unique ways, is how can we enhance those documents with block styling? Okay, so you can stylize those blocks. And you may have noticed here that some of these blocks have got some different looking things on here. And that was very intentional to kind of show this. So we've got a push pin up here on the side-by-side comparison. Okay, we've got, well, this is just a picture basically up here that was from Canva that I put in. I stole this directly from the Quality Matters course and just remade it pretty much. And then you'll see also the next steps thing down here. This is some of that styling that we can work in to start creating a learning pathway that's predictable for the students to engage with. Ooh, there we go. All right, so good. Yeah, and over time, we realize that this is a process and that it's going to take time to do this. And even if you conquer one module with this, in each of your courses, or one module at a time here, that's going to be a huge step forward for the learning. It's not like, let's convert this overnight into a completely new course. That's not what we're thinking for this. We don't want people overwhelmed. We just want to, little by little, maybe, earmark your most important content that you think you can make engaging with this process. So here's the real life living example. So here it is in real time. And I think what I'm going to do for this part is I'm going to hop into my student preview. Now, this is a course that I've built and rebuilt like probably 10, 15 times here with different content. And every time I do this, we come up with different ideas. And every time I do this, Ultra comes up with new stuff as well. So here's kind of a look at that module that we saw statically from a student perspective. I'll scroll down to the original kind of flow of this. This is like right out of my original course into Ultra, and this is the look or feel for this. So when I drop down this module, you can see from the student perspective that I'm scrolling, I'm still scrolling. And if I'm a student, I may be thinking to myself at this point, this is a little overwhelming. And I'm also thinking maybe as a student, I'm sure a lot of you have seen this because you've asked questions about how to use the activity within the analytics and how do I see what students are actually clicking on. And we've seen a lot of, well, I go into this first module and it's like half filled in. And then they skip down to the discussion and that's done. And then they skip down to the first assignment and that's done. And we're seeing that navigation pattern show up here. And I guess that's what we're trying to avoid with all this is we're trying to get more interaction with the content that you laboriously put together and are delivering here within the course shell. From the student perspective, even with, and I guess this is a good thing to point out too, as a student, if you haven't been into the student preview a lot, this is what they're seeing. They're seeing the sidebar here with the table of contents. And I clicked on the first module. And even though I've got that up there, I still am clicking next up in the upper right-hand corner, or I'm clicking to that next thing to get moving through all of this. And I mean, this helps a little bit with that navigation, but still it's a pretty overwhelming list of stuff that's going on over here. And I click through and I click through, and you can see also, if you look at it, I mean, this is a document all by itself. This is my overview. I've got the course competencies in there. And, you know, Quality Matters says this is a good thing because I've got everything marked with, you know, my title, my headings. I've got everything laid out in a hierarchy. And it also is exactly what they want at the beginning of a module. But I mean, like realistically, this is not a lot of anything in here. And now I got to click to the next thing. Now that I'm in here, I've got my assignments. And these are assignments that are going to be upcoming. And yeah, it's great to give that preview of those things and show those due dates ahead of time. Like, hey, we're going to be working on this in the future. A little bit of a lead into these. And that's all great too. But again, it's really the only thing that I'm interacting here. And I can't do anything here. I mean, just looking at it. Okay. Then we see this, and Amber begged me to put this into here. And that is the, well, we've got reading assignments that we do. And we've seen a lot of documents where the only thing actually in the document, not even any links or anything like that that I have down below, is just read chapter 1. And that's the document. Now that's because that's how it showed up in the original course. And now it's come over this way and it's pretty disconnect from the learning. Yeah. I mean, from the side, I mean, we're implying that it's kind of a step-by-step chronological order, you know, taking this all in. But now you can see I'm up to my lecture 1 presentation. So in the past, we would have put our presentation into one document inside of original, and then we would have had to put the recording in a separate one. And then if you wanted to include your outline notes or anything else that goes along with that, I'd have to drop it into another document. You can see now I've got 3 documents for one lecture. That's like crazy. And then, wow, I've got something to interact with, but it is separate from that other content that I had there. Okay. And that's all I'm going to play this out here with, because obviously we're starting to feel that disconnect with all of it. So now I hop out of here. We hop into the new module, and I'll close this one down here because I'll have to scroll a mile to get to it. Here it is, reimagined, and this is the idea, same exact module. And now we've got our module overview. And I've got these marked in here. Oh, look at that. I've got some pathways marked for my assignments in there as well. So I'm looking ahead. It ties things together a little bit more. I know I'm going to be working on these course competencies and these assignments. Great. Let's take a look at the lecture. This is lecture number 1, or your first week here, and you're not seeing my Canva presentation because on this machine I'm not logged into Canva presently, but there is my Canva presentation. So this is my slide deck basically that I would have gone through in class. And you can see that it's kind of marked at the top here as let's start here. I've got my Quality Matters link in there. Oh, there's the plans for what the lecture entails, a kind of an outline of what's going on there. And then I also included, as we get down here, my video from that day and interacting right along with that video alongside it so that I can do this while I'm watching the video. I've got my knowledge checks integrated into this as well. And if I get rid of that sidebar here and make this full screen, you can see a little bit more of what this looks like on that full view here. Okay, so I see my presentation, plans, I got my video, and then I got the knowledge checks. And I actually put in 3 different ones to kind of target 3 different parts of the video so that I know they're at least getting to those key pieces that are really important there. Okay, and then they submit these, and you could have these be grades or formative or just, informative as far as like, do I need to recover this in my instruction? Was that very clear the first time that I did this, or are we all good? Okay, and that's it. I mean, I literally, look what I got there. Now, I didn't get to lecture 2 because I'm pretty much going to use that as like my living example on the fly here to go through this process so that we can see what that looks like. But I wanted to give that student perspective so you can see this a lot less overwhelming and all the same content is there for the first part of the module. So interesting there. I'm going to hop out, and this is how we kind of go through that. This is where the time part comes in. I'm not going to lie, there's a lot of copy and paste and putting things together. I'm not going to lie, 2 screens is really helpful as well in this process because I did open up Firefox and then I did open up Chrome, and I bounce back and forth between the 2 browsers so that I can take things back and forth quickly. That does help a lot in this process. So now looking at it from the instructor side, you can see, yeah, there's my overview, my lecture 1. There's my discussion. Let's go ahead and make that visible so we can start to interact with that. That comes over. There's not much to really do with this. It's the same. There's my assignment for number 1. Again, my assignment stays pretty much the same. So I'm going to make that visible. And here's where we start to get into the streamlining process. I've got lecture number 2. That's a presentation, recording, and an outline, and a knowledge check. I'm going to hop in. First, I'm going to go to my lecture recording. Okay. I'm going to make sure that I know exactly what it is that I'm going to be grabbing from there. And here's my 1 video in the whole document, and there's my link. I don't want to recreate the wheel here, so I'm going to hop in here, and I'm going to copy this link really quick, just a quick Control-C, and I'm going to hop out of here, and I'm going to start to combine this all together into my presentation thing. So hop back over. And for now, I'm just going to make it kind of an ugly document because speed is of the essence here. Let's hop down to the bottom. Let's edit. Anywhere we want to use this stuff here, I can go ahead. I know my recording is going to be after the presentation, so use the plus sign at the bottom. I'm just throwing in some content here right now because I have the link. I'm going to center that so it's right in line with my video, and I'm going to paste that in there, and there it is. So that's all good. Awesome. Let's hop out of there. Now I know I need a video in here. This is my lecture 2 video. So I'm going to do the same thing we've been doing. Hop in, throw in my content, go to my content market, and I'm going to grab it right from Yuja. And I get to the Yuja media chooser, and I grab my video. And I'm going to apologize because I'm going to grab the first random video that I see here, which there's quite a few random ones in here. Let's go with digital media. Boom. Look at that. And my face. I know we don't want to see that. And insert content. That's why I picked this one. You're welcome, Nick. All right. Now I just have to give it a display name here. So this is lecture number 2, and this is for the immersive reader part so that it's accessible. And I'm going to put that it is the recording. Boom. And insert. All right, so that's in there. Great. Let's save all that because I got to go to the next document to combine here. So really, I can go to this lecture 2 recording here, and I can scrap that now. I'll get rid of that, delete, all set there, get everything out of there I want. Now let's grab the outline because outline notes or transcript or anything like that that you want to grab. This is like the double covering your butt on accessibility. You have your PowerPoint or your Canva. And now I've got the textual part of it too to go along with it to make sure that it is another level of accessibility. I'll be talking about this more during PD, single A, double A, and triple A accessibility within the institution level and what that means within a course. And it's a real thing coming April. So there we go. So now I look at my outline, hop in here. I'm going to edit this content. It would be nice if I could just drag this over, but it's not quite there yet. So I'm just
You
gonna
can copy and paste without editing.
without editing. Really?
Mhm.
Can I? That's
If
nice
it's
to know.
pure text,
If
yeah.
it's pure text, perfect. I'm gonna use that even. So I copy this, I hop out, boom. Let's get back into that first presentation document again, where we're combining everything too. And I'm gonna put this right under the presentation. So we'll edit. And notice I'm just clicking the plus sign in between here so I can move this stuff around. Content, paste it all in there. All good, check. Okay, and save that. Hop back out of here. We're kind of eliminating things one by one. Get rid of my outline, delete. And now I think the most time consuming part, the knowledge checks, because unfortunately the knowledge check is a block by itself. If you got like 2 or 3 questions, that means that you've got like 3 different blocks that you're putting in there. That's kind of a pain in the butt, but it is worth it because you get metrics on each block. So when they interact, you know that question is good or it's not good from a teaching perspective or a learning perspective. So you do have to take the time to do that. And here is my let's check for understanding. Now I recreate each of these into my new document. And I won't lie, I used a lot of ChatGPT on this bad boy. So these are probably not even great right now, but they're placeholders to show this. Okay. So I would grab these, copy them over to my presentation. What I'm going to do for time's sake here is we're just going to go in and edit. And at the bottom, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to say, let's add in a knowledge check. And we're going to put in blah. Okay, and we'll put in blah over and over for the answers here. And paste that in. And we'll just make it 2 options now, just to speed this along. And I'll say that this blah is correct. And save it. Okay, duplicate answers, that's okay.
Blah, blah.
2 or blah, blah. And save. All right, so now I got my knowledge check in there. Oh, ideally, I had 3 of them, so I put those 3 in there, and get those all combined here. And this, I think, again, is probably the most time-consuming part. Blah, blah, and blah, blah. Okay, and this one's correct again. And save. I'll do 2 for now. Now, at this point, if I save this, and I hop out and I delete my knowledge check, which I've now got into the other document. You can see I'm down to 1 document here. I've got an assignment and I've got my module wrap up. If I look at this overall, it's a lot different as far as how it goes for a student. I won't lie, this presentation document is ugly, like ugly as sin. So we're going to go in here and we're going to clean this up now. And this is where within the content creator, we have a little bit more flexibility to move things around. So I don't really need this to be full screen because at any time students can click on the presentation and still make it full screen. So I don't need it to take up all that screen space there for a lot of extra scrolling. So I can do that. I can also take this and now put it next door here so we can interact with that. In a short while, I will be able to vertically stack things in here as well to avoid the white space that shows up because I don't really like that that's there. But kind of nice, I've got all this stuff in one place. I won't lie because I've been looking at a lot of the accessibility stuff here. This is a great time for you to also think, well, is my stuff actually accessible? What I mean by that is when I come in to edit this and I look at this particular piece here from an immersive reader standpoint, do I actually have any styling that's on there that makes sense? Well, this isn't really a title. It's more of a header for what's going on here. And then these are like subheaders within that. And then up here, I can create content that is actually the title of this whole thing. Okay, and then I can style that so that it is actually the title. And this is that hierarchy that you create. This is not just accessibility, but quality matters and making sure that it follows that all the way down the line here. So I go ahead and center that. And it's starting to look a little bit more like an actual, document presentation learning space altogether. And I move all that stuff around here and I divide it up because here's my presentation. We're going to interact with that in the first part of class. And then below that, let's take this and move this below presentation number 2 here. Right down here. You can drag those things around. This is my video. And again, video doesn't need to take up that whole space because at any time I can go ahead and use a media chooser is a little funky on this sometimes. It drags kind of, there we go. We drop that off there. I got my recording. Awesome. Let's go ahead and make that so that's lined up over here too. And then I can grab these and I can move them around into the different spaces around there so that they're a little bit closer to the video and more part of the interactive piece. Okay, and then I got my third one, or would have my third one at the bottom. But now I saved this. So Amber said, what about the styling? And well, let's go ahead and style this out. You've got this new palette looking thing here on each of the blocks that you put in there. Okay. The title isn't necessarily something that I want to mark, but, this might be something that is like quick tips or push pin kind of worthy. You've got question, tip, key points, next steps. Okay, so let's go ahead and say that these are key points that are going on in the lecture. Let's say that this is a question. Makes sense? Boom. Now students know every time they see that they need to interact with that. If you've taken a Quality Matters course, you've seen these kind of things in the Canvas LMS. And then let's say I added something on the bottom here. I'm just going to throw in something very random, blah, 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 and center that. Good. And let's say this is my final kind of tip for everyone here. Get in here and boom.
What if I want to turn it off?
Now, if I want to turn that off, I go right back to the little palette and then I can reset the styling and it's gone. Okay, so you can toggle between these, and this is where I think everyone's going to have their own unique kind of pathway that they create. I know when I go into an Erica Fenton class that every time there's a homework assignment, there's going to be the same little logo picture that starts off the homework assignment. Like it's always that same thing that's at the top. It's like a push pin kind of Post-it note thing with a tack stuck into it.
Oh, yeah.
That's in every assignment. Well, that's a pretty good indication to students that, okay, this is another assignment. I know that I've got my visual cue right away. That's what these things are creating as well as the visual cues.
A culture instilling.
Are you
Yep.
saying Erica's consistent?
I'm saying very consistent.
Okay.
And,
All right.
yeah, and that is good teaching. That's what I'm saying. Yes. So with that, we've got this new document. We've got the layout and all that. It's going to look very similar to the other one that we went through from the student preview. So I take you back to the original document that we started on. And at the very bottom of that, because we're at the end of that half hour, I put in the Rethinking Your Ultra Documents survey. We want to know your thoughts on this. We want to know if you have any questions. We want to know if you have any follow-up that you want to do as well, because this is kind of our next big lift, I think, and CETL is working with people to do this kind of stuff.